All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to another trading video here. This is my first one since Wednesday of last week. Today is Monday, August 30th, 2021. I didn't make any trades on Thursday or Friday last week, so that's why I didn't have any videos those 2 days. However, I will talk about SPRT and just kind of go over that because that was a pretty crazy move that we had there. But I will get into the two trades, or the one trade that I took today and then the other trade that I attempted to make and didn't get executed on with RNXT. But first off, I did trade any here, ended up with a $20 loss on it actually. But as we can see here, it was, kind of approaching highs here. We've got a 52-week high, 658. So on the daily here, we got a big spike in the open after a few straight green days. And we had a huge spike here, as you can see, got into a halt, and then we were kind of consolidating a bit, going sideways through the middle of the day here, and then we crossed back over VWAP, and we held that pretty nicely, got a spike from a little under 7 up to 750 there, and then came back down, and as you can see, we are holding above VWAP still. And then I have this trend line here that we were just kind of holding, steadily making higher lows throughout the afternoon here. And once this trend line and VWAP kind of got close together, I thought that would be a pretty good risk level here. If it breaks the trend and breaks VWAP, I was just going to cut it, which eventually is what happened to me here. But we can pull up E-Trade really quickly and just see. So I got in it, let's see, at 305 here, and just 100 shares at $7 a piece. As you can see, I did try to get in it about a minute before that at $6.95, so just a little smaller risk there, but then it did start kind of moving up, so I just wanted to get in it, and it still wasn't a crazy risk getting in there at 7. So we'll go right back there. So yes, 305, so we were right around this area here. 305, yeah, so we're right over here, this kind of green candle there. So I did try to get in, right here, and then we bounced back up and we're sitting right at 7, and I thought that we were going to get a push. I was hoping to, retest 750 here at least, and maybe get another breakout over 768, and then, who knows, the sky's the limit at that point. And, I really thought I had another push left in it, but we didn't get that. So got in here at 7, and then, almost just a minute or two later, as you can see, we have these back-to-back 2 huge red candles. This is actually the 2 minute, so we'll get into the 1 minute there. But we had a sell-off there after we ran to 750, and then we were kind of trending back up at 7, so that's why I decided to get in. And right here at 305, after we had this nice drop off there, I just thought it was a good kind of dip buy, a good buying opportunity. Obviously, it's not really that much of a dip buy, but it did get my risk down instead of having to enter up around 715 and be risking 30 cents or so a share. Getting in at 7, I'm sorry, and then I was planning on just risking, I think VWAP here was like 687, and then the trend I was looking around 691, 692. Unfortunately, you can see how big of a red candle we get here, so I really didn't get to get out right away at my risk level, and that's why it slipped to a $20 loss, which still isn't bad. But I did end up just selling out right here at 680 after this big pullback, and then we had a little bit of a bounce, but it was weak. I did hold it for a second just to see how it would behave. If that was just a quick bounce and we recovered VWAP, then I would have stayed in it for a push. But once we got through there, and then we kind of bounced and didn't even bounce to VWAP, and I got out, and luckily I did when I got out when I did, or else we had this second big pullback and I probably would have, got out in this panic around 660, 670, and just made the loss a little worse. Once again, $20 isn't too bad at just 100 shares, and it was a tight risk. So I did like this setup, but the afternoon trades, the afternoon setup at least that I like to play with this, kind of early morning spike and then looking for another late day one, has kind of been failing more recently over the past, month or so, I would say. So that's just something that I need to keep in mind and maybe try to get in on some morning moves instead, because we do get morning spikers and runners, but we're just not getting that, final leg up in the closing hour there, like we were for a while when the market is still hot, but we were getting a lot more late day moves before. But as you can see, it is just faded all the way down to 6 even, and after hours it's now at 624. But it's just important to have your risk levels and to stick to them when they break. I was watching it still, and thinking if I wanted to try to get in around like a 650 level here, because if we zoom out, let's see, these lows were actually, this kind of to me looked like a pretty good buying opportunity as well, this dip here. But since I'd already taken a loss on it, that's really the main reason that I didn't. If I hadn't entered here, I probably would have got in at 650. As you can see here, we kind of make this drop down right here, that wick, and that lines up pretty well with these lows here, and it held up. And then even if you look over, these previous highs that were resistance at first, obviously once we broke through it, that's when we got the huge run. But I thought that kind of, that resistance had turned into support. It held up there, kind of held up again on that little minute wick there, and then we got down, held it again. So I was looking at it at 650, but decided not to get into it, and luckily so, because we did end up getting another big pullback pretty quick after that. That's not, what's that, like a 25-cent move at the most. 650, we didn't even get to 675, I don't think. We got close, but good to stay out of it once it got under VWAP. That's why I didn't enter as well. I took the loss and it was under VWAP. So as much as I did think it was a good entry, I just had to tell myself not to get in it. And I'm glad that I, avoided that one. The only thing that upsets me about this trade here is that while I was in this trade and watching it, I missed RNXT, which had a huge run on an FDA approval here, and this trade set up perfectly. But as you can see, this push here is at 310, so I entered my trade at 305. So this was happening as I was in any, and I'm not going to try to get back and forth into them. Well, this wasn't even on my watch because I had been just watching any for kind of all of this period here, from like 2:30 to when I got in, I was watching it. So I didn't even know RNXT was setting up and running until after I exited any. I think I noticed it around like 3:30 or so, or 3:04, maybe even at like 3:45 after this push and halt. So I wasn't going to enter in after the halt there. But this was a really nice setup, just breaking those highs earlier on in the day and just getting a huge move there. And then I actually did try to enter it. Let's see, right here, it's canceled now, but I only tried to buy 30 shares of this one, and it was at 402. So in after hours there, at $15.50 a share, I was going to risk, a break below 50 or 15. So risking 50 cents a share. That's why I was taking such small size there. And then I was hoping to get, like 17 out of it with a push and a squeeze, which, actually did end up happening there, but I didn't get executed. As you can see here, I had just barely missed it at 1550. This candle goes down to 1540, and then this other one comes down to 1565. So I had just missed that dip there, and I didn't want to chase it up there, but we got a really nice move and a nice squeeze, and I was kind of confident in this in the after hours, just because of what had happened with SPRT pretty much all week last week. This has a really low float. Let's see if this will minimize for us. Yeah, only a 6 million float here. So, it just has the capability of making really, really big moves. 26 million volume on the day. So you've got, more than 4 times float rotation. And almost all of that came in the last 45 minutes of the market. So it was just, it was insane. So that's why I tried to get in here. I wish I would have been able to. It wasn't a great, it was just 3-to-1 risk reward, aiming for about 17. And risking, so I'm trying to make $1.50, risking 50 cents. My plan was to try and, sell 20 of them for, about $1, $1.50, win there around 17. and then it would have made back my loss on any, and then I was going to try to hold on to 10 shares to swing into tomorrow because I could see this gapping up. We'll go over SPRT shortly and kind of see the similarities there. We are still quite a bit above VWAP, even though it did fade throughout after hours, but FDA approvals are pretty big deals. So I could see this definitely gapping up tomorrow and just squeezing again and running with such a short, with such a low float there. So that'll definitely be on watch for tomorrow, like a red to green move depending on where we open, or a break of pre-market highs, or a break of this $18 level. It depends how we open tomorrow, but I'll definitely be looking at that. Even maybe a break of 16. I kind of was during market hours. You can see we kind of had a bit of resistance there at first, and then we did get through it right at the end of the day. But then after hours kind of got this push, but you can see it is much lower volume in after hours, and that's kind of why I also only wanted 30 shares, just because of the low volume. These things, they make huge moves. We got a big push there, but then you also get a $3 a share, $4 a share almost sell off there in the next 20 minutes. So the losses they can pile up quick on such a low float like this. So you just have to be a little extra careful. And let's see. And then I'll go over PTON really quickly. I'll be watching PTON tomorrow and Wednesday, or the rest of this week. I'm waiting for, a first green day. It does have some bad news coming out with it. Just the kind of earnings and the treadmill pricing, just not looking great. And they're saying, the company's costs are really eating into their profits. But I still do think it'll have, I'm just playing the price action. I look into the, stories behind it briefly, but I don't trade too much on fundamentals. It's more so technical. And, when we have a red day here and then such a big gap down and followed by another, 2 more back-to-back red days, and it's just being, sold off really, really heavily. So I'm just going to be looking for this for a simple, red to green move on its first green day, a reversal. So hopefully, I'm hoping that we gap down again tomorrow. Honestly, the lower this thing gets, the better for me. But we'll see. We closed today. Where did we close? Right at, 101.50 just about. So, hopefully we can get down around $100. That should be hopefully will act as a support level, and let it kind of sit around there, and then a break of 101.50 tomorrow, and try to play some calls on that. I didn't try, but I was thinking about playing puts on this today after we got this move through VWAP and then went green on the day, and it failed. And then we came back up, and we're just kind of sitting right here on that red to green level. But we didn't even push, the first highs of 105. So when this kind of started failing, I thought it had potential, and it does have only 104.30 is that 104.34 is that red to green move. So it's less than $1 move on the stock for the risk. It wouldn't have been too high of a risk, and then we just got this massive sell-off through the entire day. I think I was looking at them. The options were for $100 puts for this coming Friday, and they were sitting around $120 a piece. And I looked at it again when it was around here somewhere, like in the 101s, the low 101s, and those options were up to like 210 or so. So they would have been nice wins. That was a good move there. $90 winner there. On the options, big percent gains back. But I did also know that I was going to be away from the market for a couple hours in the middle of the day today. So that was another reason why I didn't enter in the morning, because I knew if it did fade, it would be kind of a long all day kind of fade after we got that morning panic. You don't typically get, another huge panic like that. I was expecting it to be a slow mover through the day, and I didn't want to just be kind of worrying about it while I wasn't able to actually be watching it close enough to monitor it, because if you do get a push like this, that can really become a big loss on an option if we were to get a spike over 105 again. So that's why I didn't get into PTON, but like I said, I will be watching it for its first green day this week and looking for some calls on that. But let's then look at SPRT, which was just a huge mover. Here's a daily chart, and we'll just look at kind of how it's set up here. So we had one big gap up on it, a couple months ago here, and then it was just kind of going sideways for a while, setting up, and then it finally broke out of this resistance, these highs here, about the $5. Let's see, like 550 or so. And once we got through there, it really never looked back. And then, I mean, it does kind of just chop around. These moves are actually pretty solid moves, but now that it's spiked as high as it did, almost hitting 60, they look really small. But as you can see, if we just get that $60 candle and this green one out of the picture here and let that chart just kind of reset, you can see that we are getting big moves here and big gaps, $2 moves some days, even on these red days. You're just getting morning spikes and then fades in the afternoon. This is 9 to 11 this day, 11 to 14. And if you watched, I think it was my first video on Monday of last week, SPRT was my main watch on Tuesday. It was pretty much my main watch every day last week, but once we had this huge day here and we're up in around the 20 up in the 20s, it was just so extended that I just wasn't confident enough to enter it. Just waiting for a huge sell-off to come, and at that point it's kind of expensive for me to buy a decent amount of shares. Obviously you don't need a ton of shares if a stock goes from $26 to $59 on a day. Even having 50 shares or 30 shares or something like that, if you're making $10 a share, even $5 a share on 30 shares, that's a good $150 profit there. Obviously that would be great. But like I said, it was just a little overextended for me after we had this move. I really missed the break of 15, and the break of 11 I think was kind of the key level there. We'll get into more of an intraday chart here. Let's see. So yeah, in here, let's see, last Monday would have been the 23rd. So that's back here. And we're just kind of getting this nice steady ramp up. And then Tuesday we had a pretty solid move early on in the day. As you can see, it ran up here, but then it did fade again all day. So that's why I was just kind of scared to play it, because of how much it did sell off kind of late day and everything. This day was, there's definitely plays in here. You can see that we're getting big moves, some consolidation right around here at 1280s, and then a big spike up, to 1380 almost. So that's like a nice dollar move. There's definitely plays intraday all day long with this, just, watching those key levels, consolidation and things like that. Again, we get a huge sell off here. If you kind of chase this, it's a lot of risk, but then we do start to make lows, establish a little support above this daily low. So just in hindsight, that's entering right around in this area, 1275-ish, 1280s, and then you're only having to risk a new low of day, which is in the 60s there, 1264. So you could get really tight risk on this and have a ton of upside, but some of these red candles and sell-offs are minute candles, and they're dumping 50 cents to $1 at a time. So I was just avoiding it. But then eventually it does, just the FOMO kind of kicks in, and you just kind of want to be a part of it, especially when you've got other traders talking about all of the profits that they're making off of it. You just kind of want to join in on the party there. So I was watching it here on the 26th. When would that be? That would have been, I think, Thursday it was, before we got the huge move. Let's see. Yeah, so Thursday. And it was just gradually uptrending all day long after, we got the pullback, but then intraday here, just setting, higher lows the whole time. A really nice trend was being established there. So I think I drew this trend line when we had just made like this low here, or maybe this dip. And I wanted to get in it, but I was just too scared, to be honest with you. But these are great dip buy opportunities. Like I said, with, you can establish a pretty solid risk level here, just trend breaks 1550 even, which is a little below the trend, but just to give yourself a little extra wiggle room and that nice like whole dollar, half dollar level. You could have got in with only 25-30 cents of risk after this sell off, and then had huge moves up to 1750. You get it, consolidating again right around 1650, trend line right there. And then that was really the last dip close to the trend before it just went absolutely crazy. But those are $3.50 moves there, and then after hours was just insane. I just remember watching this on Thursday, and like I said, I didn't play it at all, but it was, I just found it really entertaining, and I couldn't keep my eyes off of it even though I wasn't playing it. Just kind of trying to guess what it was going to do next or try to predict it a little bit. And just some of these moves were just absolutely nuts, and it just kept breaking out, consolidating, breaking back out, consolidating, breaking back out. And then Friday morning was just, you got this high at 32, a little break above it, kind of like a fake out breakout there, but a fake out, but it's still from 32 to 34. That's obviously $2 a share isn't bad, but on a $30 stock now you're looking at less than 10% on that move. That's another reason I kind of stayed away from it. Once it gets up to this level, you do need pretty big dollar moves for a 10% win or a 15% win or something like that, which is really the minimum that I'd like to aim for. But obviously you get this break of 34 in pre-market, and it just goes absolutely nuts up into the 50s, 56. What a dream come true that must have been for some people, making $20 a share in 10-15 minutes there off of that move. That is just insane. But like I said, I was afraid of it the whole time because of some of the pullbacks you get. So like you can see, we get this quick, massive run up into the 50s, and then before market even opens, then it just sells off all the way back down to 40. It gets halted right within the first minute of the trading of the actual market hours there. You just have a ton of people because it's up so much from closing yesterday. Some traders, don't have extended hour, can't trade after hours and in pre-market. It just depends on your brokerage. Some people just haven't put in research to know how to do it, I guess. I know I use E-Trade, so I can trade after hours, but I did have to fill out a form and apply for it. So I think some people are just stay away from after hours trading in pre-market. Or maybe their broker doesn't allow them, depending on an account size or something. I'm not sure of all the regulations with other brokers outside of E-Trade, but that's why you can see how small the volume is in after hours and pre-market, and then compared to actual market hours. But everyone that bought here yesterday, between 16 and 20, or people that bought early and just let it grind up all day, you get this huge gap up into the 30s. It's just a lot of profit taking, a lot of selling pressure there. So you get that huge dump at the open. Let's see, what do we have there? From 39 down to 33-ish. So a $6 sell-off, then a halt, and then another dip down to 30. And I was watching it and, wanting to enter it and just risk off of $30. But I obviously never did. It was just halting. Stuff like this I just tend to stay away from because you never know how it's going to act when it comes out of a halt. But then, it kind of seemed like it might have been over and we got the most of the squeeze in the pre-market. And then all of a sudden, 11 o'clock, you get another spike, halt, consolidation, comes back down, and then it goes nuts one more time, in the middle of the day here, which typically, I said this before, is a little bit slower. A lot of people take off and, a lot of people trade the morning 2 hours, and then the last 2 hours are typically the hottest times of the day, and the middle is a little, slower. But this volume on SPRT, it was just such a crazy mover that everybody had all their eyes on it, and you just get another insane and actually a really pretty clean move here. You do have some decent candles there of from 50 down to 47 or so $3 sell off there, but all in all it was just crazy. But then you can see here, then another giant sell off again, and I'm sure that there's plenty of people that were trying to buy some of these dips around the $50 level, thinking it could squeeze back to 60. And if you don't listen to your plan and you're all of a sudden down $2 or $3 a share, and you don't want to cut for, if you have 100 shares, you don't want to lose $200 to $300. So now you're just holding it, oh, I'll sell when it gets back to break even or something like that. With a stock like this, I mean, it doesn't get back to 50, and then 5 minutes later you're down below 40, and you can just be underwater really, really fast with something like this. And I did watch it today, but I knew I wasn't going to play it. I was hoping that we were going to gap down, and then similar to my PTON plan, I am waiting for a red to green move, and maybe I'll play it then. It just really depends. I'm hoping that we get, I don't know if we will even gap down again tomorrow. It's back above VWAP at close here. I was hoping that this was kind of going to be a nice sell-off to end the day, and I was hoping that we'd be closing in the 20s, like high 20s or mid 20s, and then get a gap down to like the low 20s, and get a nice red to green move on it. But it does not look like we're going to be getting that. So we'll see how it holds up and how it behaves. But I do hope that we have one massive red day either tomorrow or Wednesday, and then just look for another clean red to green move. But that was SPRT last week. Was just insane. I mean, stuff like this it's happened more common, obviously, with all the Wall Street bets plays and stuff like that, all the short squeezes that they're putting together. Obviously, it started with GameStop and AMC and stuff like that, but there's been a ton of them. But, something like this from, $10 to 60 and, within the same week in 3, 4, 5 days is just insane. And this is why I was trying to get into RNXT in after hours today. Like I said, I was going to sell probably 2/3 of it for $1 to $1.50 a share gain, just to kind of make back my loss on any. But then I did just want to hold on to like 10 shares, and I know it's not a crazy number, but as you can see with SPRT, you get a squeeze even if you have 10 shares, but a $5-10 squeeze on it is good money there. So that's why I tried to get into RNXT, but it just didn't happen. So we'll be watching this for tomorrow. The other plays that I was watching today, Root was setting up in pre-market. It looked like it'd be pretty nice, but it does have this huge float, 98 million. So it just, that kind of just limits their potential a little bit, because you don't get that float rotation. And then something like Root that's been downtrending for so long, it originally was 29.48 on the beginning of November, when I would guess that this is its IPO, and just sold off, and then starts climbing back a little bit, and then just look at that, you have one green day in like a month. That's just hideous. And it's happened a few times to it. Yeah, it gets a little bounce here, and then a bunch of red, a little bounce again, more red, and then you do get a nice bounce here. I'm not sure. I didn't play this or see this. I'm not sure what caused this to happen here, but then again, just sell off the whole time. So with that, almost 100 million float and this downtrending the whole time, it is just super hard for these stocks to run again, because you don't have that float rotation, and you have a bunch of people that are losing money on it, just bag holding, that when they see it goes from 519, let's see, it's obviously like it's all-time low, but it's just chopping around in the 5s, struggling to get over 6. If you bought this stock at anywhere in here, the $9 to $10, $12 range or something like that, one morning you get up and all of a sudden it's gapping up and in the 8s. That's not nearly as bad of a loss as someone was looking at 5 days ago. So that's why right when market opens, we have a nice extended or after hours move here, pre-market another push, and I was really just hoping, watching it for a break of 8 down here. And it did open above 8, or open right at 8, but I generally don't play like the first minute or two, just because it is kind of crazy. But you can see it gets this spike, and then this right here is probably just a bunch of people, like I said, that are holding bags and just willing to take that gap up, and they're just crushing it. It gets a little bounce and crushed, and it did just fade all day. I was watching it around here, and it's consolidating pretty nicely, and around here. right above that red or green to red move. So you do have a really clear risk level of like 640, so a 650 entry, only risking 10 cents a share. And then we do get this push up to 7, so I mean that's a nice move there. 50 cents risking 10 is a solid risk reward level. But for me, I decided not to because of that huge float, because it's under VWAP. You know, it's not a extremely favorable setup. Not to say that there's not, you know, ways to play it. There's going to be a bounce somewhere. You know, we got a decent one there, but it just, you know, it just doesn't check enough boxes, I guess you could say, for the setup that I look for. But I was watching it, you know, in the morning. I thought we would get a little something from it. And then BBIG is another big runner that we had, up from like $3 or $4 just a few days ago. See here, but this also a 60 million float, higher than I generally like. I like, you know, less than 20 million is ideal. Even, you know, 10 million and less than that is when you really get the crazy moves. So something up at 60, I mean, I will play it, but it is just harder to get those big moves. But you can see here we go from Friday, we're down at 335, we opened at 350. And, you know, we almost hit 10 today. So that was a great move, a big move there. Friday was a really clean day on it as well. But like I said, I didn't trade on Friday. I had quite a few things going on. So I was watching the market, but not really. I knew that I probably wasn't going to make a play that day. But, you know, on this one, you do get a really nice move up to 4, bounces off of it once, and then comes back. Again, kind of a fake out breakout there. It goes to 405, comes back under it. But then once you do get, you know, that another break of 4 there, you just get a really nice move to 475, a little bit of a pullback, but you stay above that $4 level. And then that's when you get a nice run there up to 6. That's, you know, a beautiful trade there if you got in on it. A nice after hours move, and then pre-market again, you know, you got kind of a gap, or you got a gap up there pushing 1050. So you can see this little lightning bolt here is if I set an alert for something, you know, add an alert at a certain price level. I guess I shouldn't have tried to display that, but I did have an alert set for 963 this on this, which was just kind of a, I don't know, just a random spot. I just wanted to know if it got back over, you know, really over 950 pushing 10. I was looking for a $10 break, and I did watch it in the morning, and I thought it was going to take off. You know, you do have a nice like dollar move there. It opens up right around 9. You get a little bit of a pullback, and then a huge, you know, dollar a share move there. And then I went to look at some other stuff once it pulled back, and we had this big sell-off. I kind of stopped watching it, so I just set the alert, and, you know, got the alert that it was going, so I pulled it back up and just kind of watched it, how it behaved. And again, it just bounced straight off of 10 and, you know, right back down to $9, then down to 850. And then, you know, from there, it was done for the day. Like, you do have, you know, nice moves there on dip buys, but I'm not, you know, that's not part of any of my strategies. I'm not trying to guess a bottom here, but you do get a nice move on that from, you know, 650 to 8. So there's definitely, you know, a play to be made on that. But that's the other thing that I was watching this morning. So we'll see, you know, how tomorrow opens up. So $20 in the red today, not terrible, but that is 3 red days in a row for me. Gotta get back on the board here with a nice green day. Hopefully tomorrow, you know, Peloton sets up for a nice option move, or you know, RNXT. Hopefully, you know, we get a nice clean move on that. We'll see. But thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see.